This podcast, Strange, Rare, and Peculiar, is for kind of those in the know about homeopathy, deepening your knowledge, bringing you more information about what you need to know and maybe what you can leave aside about homeopathy.
Homeo what?
Homeo what?
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.
Good, upside down.
You swallowed a fly today. It's one of the funniest things I have seen in a long time.
It's not the first time that's happened, you know.
Actually, it wasn't a fly. It was some sort of insect, though, wasn't it?
It was some sort of New Zealand insect.
A New Zealand insect.
It got me.
Yeah.
I ate it.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to. And then I was coughing up a lung. And of course, it was while we were on a hike, and there were lots of people coming by while I'm just gagging. Everybody's looking at me like I'm typhoid Denise.
The timing was amazing because we were watching two fantails, male and female fantails, feeding their babies.
Yeah, they're birds, in case you don't know this.
Yeah, low in a tree. Fantail's a native New Zealand bird. Beautiful bird, very small, flighty, and flits around. And an amazing nest that was quite low to the ground.
It was, and I mean, and the name fantail really speaks to what they look like. What the tail actually fans out, and it's just so beautiful. And the nest, it was hard to see what the texture of it looked like. A wasp nest to me.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was hard. It seemed hard, like it was a case or something. Yeah. Lots of spit went into that one.
I'm telling you. Meantime, I guess you've probably gathered by now, we are not in our usual Philadelphia, but we are on the other side of the planet.
And you can tell, one of the reasons you can tell is because the door is open and the sounds of those funny birds that always assist me in winning at Scrabble.
You cheat.
No, I don't. I never cheat. It's not my fault if there's a bird called a tui or a kaka.
I love that there's a kaka. Of course I do.
And then there's the fish.
Yeah, and then the fish. So
the monkey and the pokey and the hokey.
So Alastair will always use, these really obscure Kiwi words to get around it in Scrabble, which I have to say, even though I say you cheat, I think it's pretty genius.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyway,
kaka the bird is with a K.
Yeah, kaka.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big parrot. Yeah.
What's the What's the one that
There's a Kia as well. Yeah. Not a car, but a Kia.
What's the one that's
K-E-A.
sort of heavy set and on the ground and gets run over a lot?
The Weka.
Is that it?
Weka, W-E-K-A.
Yeah, the Weka.
No. The ones you're talking about, that's not for Scrabble. It's a pukeko.
That's it, a pukeko.
Yeah, they make quite a mess. There's a big flourish of feathers when you hit one of those at high speed, especially on the West Coast.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I think we've seen them here. Oh, so where we are, we're not just in New Zealand. We're in a place in New Zealand. We are on Waiheke Island, which is off the coast of Auckland, which, if you're not familiar with New Zealand, it is the biggest city on the North Island of New Zealand. And this place, Waiheke Island, is a 40-minute ferry ride from the mainland, from the city. And it's just a magical place.
It really is.
So we thought we'd talk about travel.
Well, that would make sense because we, I suppose I remember we did a podcast where we talked quite personally about a bunch of things like, growing up on the other side of the world and how far I was and, how often I was traveling and, we were both talking about our experiences. And so I've been very used to, basically putting my head down, taking a big lungful of air at home and then going to the airport and then flying and, and that 24 hours is gone.
Yeah.
You lose 24 hours one way and you make it up going the other way.
And what did I say the other day? I had sort of numerology around how we were coming out ahead.
Oh, you did, because we missed the second, but we gained the 15th.
Right, we missed the 2nd of December. It didn't exist because we got on the plane on the 1st and we landed on the 3rd. So we lost the 2nd, but when we come back, we get to do the 15th twice. So we're really like 13 points ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, 30 maybe. It depends on how you do your numbers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But, homeopathy and travel, there's so much to talk about. I mean, we were thinking about, as a topic, homeopathy around the world. But then we got into, as we were setting up the equipment, which is basically not our usual equipment. It's a laptop on top of 2 books on top of 2 pillows.
I don't think you should share and divulge our secret technology solutions.
Right, the secret high-tech secret solutions. But then we were thinking about, as we were just chatting, there's so many things about homeopathy and travel that are just kind of, I don't know, so interesting to talk about. And where I wanted to start, which is not where we had planned to start, and you haven't yet stated agreement out loud, so now here I am doing it.
Here we go.
But the first thing I was thinking about is how, when we look at homeopathy from a big picture standpoint, and the background noise, in addition to the birds and the breeze, is Alastair having a cup of Earl Grey tea, which is probably louder than the birds. I'm not sure how much you can hear. Anyway, but one of the things when we talk about sort of healing and homeopathy as a part of that process, there's a way in which we just become more of ourselves. And, people say when they're not well, they say, I'm not myself. I haven't been myself lately.
I'm
right?
behind myself.
Or I'm behind myself, or I just can't get where I need to be.
I'm not quite right.
Yeah. And
I'm off.
And there's something about the process of working with homeopathy that's about, sort of this reflective process, but also pushing our edges and kind of moving into a higher place of health. But sometimes the places we haven't yet gone to are places that we've been, whether it's too afraid to look at, or whether it's just that it's something outside of our comfort zone sometimes. We sort of become smaller in our ways of being. When you stay in your home environment, I think for a lot of us, the pandemic really pointed this out. I mean, I went about 3 years without shoes. No, but there's a way. That's not really true. I actually wear fancy shoes in the house. I'm a shoe gal. But there's a way, though, that when we aren't well, we are smaller and smaller versions of ourselves. Would you agree with that?
That's really interesting. I've not thought of it in that way before. But see, I've not been well this week. As you can probably tell, I've got a bit of squeak in my voice.
Say squeak. I would say it's a little alarm bacall.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but, my body has dealt with it really well. Shall I mention it? Because I've just felt off or smaller than myself. I got a tickle in my throat, like a scratch in my throat last Sunday. Actually, it's 6 days today.
But you didn't tell me for a whole day.
No, well, I didn't because,
Because then I get whatever symptom.
Yeah, well, there's something else. But, and then so I prescribed and I thought, all right, time for aconite. And I took aconite and a couple of doses and immediately pushed through to the next phase. And then I knew, well, this isn't COVID.
Which, of course, was the fear with,
Right.
a trip plan.
And then I started to do my normal acute. And so my normal acute, it takes 6 days.
Yeah.
And if I'm without a secondary infection and with some assistance. And then I took Bronia as it went through to the phase of really sore throat, and then I came out of it. Then I felt well within myself, even though I had symptoms, and then my voice broke like when I was 13, and that was kind of annoying because I was teaching and squeaking,
But this idea of being smaller, I mean, I guess in an acute, you do less things. You stay, because your body doesn't let you, because it's conserving its energy.
Yeah.
In order to get well. So.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. But I think when we talk about this from a chronic perspective, we limit ourselves. Our worlds get smaller because we don't have the adaptive capacity for unexpected things, right? When people kind of hunker down in their chronic state, and you sort of, and again, I bring up COVID because even though there was so much about what we were not able to do, or at least in some parts of the country, other parts of the country didn't, we all didn't have the same experience, but in doing so, you start to see what are the things that I really need in order for my life to be okay. So for some people, they need to get out of their house every day and do things. Some people need to have a certain amount of physical activity, or, need to have time away from family. Or some people, their chronic state is it gets smaller, and being in their home, then they have all their creature comforts, and then it becomes harder to go back out into the world again. I mean, not to be crass about this, but you think about how many people sort of, if you're used to going out, I mean, I'm thinking of this as a person who spent many of their working years in New York City. You leave your house and you get on a subway and you go to work, and you have, generally it's an hour no matter where you go, right? And I guess it's the same if people are in a car going somewhere, but you don't go to the bathroom. And again, I don't mean to be crass, but, during COVID, we're all working at home, and you're, 3 paces from, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. And, right? And so then our bodies, our way of being just changes. Anyway, where
are you going with this?
Well, where I was going is that travel is a way that you have to leave your comfort zone.
Yeah, you do.
In so many ways. And you have to confront lots and lots of different things that if you're just kind of hanging around doing your own routine.
I really like where you're going now. I totally get it. Unless you pay a lot of money. If you pay a lot of money, then you can maintain your creature comforts.
For the most part, but even still, right? So if I use our example, we went from Philadelphia to my favorite parking place by JFK, which is a great travel story about trust in the universe. Charles, which we can talk about later if it makes sense. But and it takes about anywhere from and just under 2 hours to 5 hours to get to JFK, because for us we have to go through the two metropolitan areas and the New Jersey Turnpike. So there's a lot of play there, and you don't want to miss a flight. So of course we left early, which meant the fact that we got through everything seamlessly meant we arrived really early, and we had, no matter, if we were gazillionaires, well, there were gazillionaires on our flight, they had to wait with us, the people that arrived early, because you couldn't do anything. And you just had to be there. And you could see the people who were impatient, right? There was the guy who was standing up at the counter when they hadn't even set up the little, the little corralling units, right? So you've got to sort of be patient, and you have to manage your temperature, right? So we were going from one climate to another. And so, no matter how many layers of clothing you have, you take them off, you're still hot standing there, and you're, and then so you have to be adaptive. And then, you might have trouble with, the ticketing, and then you have to not lose your temper. And then you go through that big snake of a line to go through TSA pre-check. And, no matter where you're coming from or who you are, Air New Zealand apparently didn't allow TSA pre-check, right? And if you're a depending on what your passport, or what your residency status is, you might not be able to do it. So you have to stand on that line. That line took us, an hour, hot, right? So do you get where I'm going? Like, before you even get on the airplane, there's all these ways in which travel stretches you. And people, you hear the stories about people who are losing it on airplanes now. Right? And it's like travel makes you...
It's so interesting you say that, because when I've thought about... there's different reasons that people travel. Like, there's a whole lot of backpackers around here, right? People are going, I want to explore myself, right?
Do you think people actually say that, or they just say, I want to explore the world, but exploring yourself comes as a secondary consequence that some people aren't ready for?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the same thing, but either way... Yeah, you're right. I mean,
you just have a high degree of consciousness.
No, well, thank you.
I'm like sitting with the Buddha over here.
Yeah, right. But no, because when I took off as a youngster, I wasn't going, I want to explore myself. So you're right. I want to go to Paris, or I want to go to Amsterdam, and I want to ride a motorbike. So, but there's that kind of travel, and that's a very, very different travel from I've got to go to work.
Right.
And, that could be I've got to fly to work, or I've got to get in my car and drive to work. And then there's the travel around duty, or, we're now going to visit my parents. We're now going to visit my family, and we're going to drive 8 hours,
right.
Tennessee, or, I don't know, Florida, something. And so the different reasons for traveling, I think, So the impatience that you were just talking about, I think it hits. There's kind of less of it if you're exploring yourself, right? Because if you've got a backpack and there's no ferry, then what are you going to do? You start talking to somebody, play some cards, or pull out a packet of Camel cigarettes. If you're going to work, it matters. Yeah,
Totally.
And the plane is late, or at least there's that TSA pre-check or whatever. You got to manage yourself. And I don't know where you're going with this, but are you going? Managing yourself is the art of travel. It's not about taking remedies. Is that where you're going with this?
Oh, that's so interesting. Well, yes and no, but I like the way that you're saying it, because it's funny when, if you're a homeopath and you're traveling, people ask you these questions like, well, what remedy do you take when you fly?
Well, what a ridiculous question.
Well, I don't say that to people.
Well, no. But no. It's actually, I take it back.
No, but there is an expectation that you take a pill for something. Right, in homeopathy, and actually it's more about preparation in yourself.
Right, there you go. That's exactly it. And so for me, I mean, if I'm ill on a flight, or if I have symptoms that are deviation from normal,
right,
then I might think about a remedy in a travel situation.
Can I tell my dirty little secret? I'm just going to put it out there.
Your Piraten story.
No. No. What I do take when I fly or get on a boat.
You can talk about that.
Oh, it's really interesting because people are, people who know me as a homeopath as opposed to, my friends.
You're building up to bigger than it actually is.
Well, I don't know, because sometimes people think, I know now I'm making it sound like it's a big deal, but I take a quarter of a Dramamine. So, or Bonine, they call it in Europe, right? And it's a motion sickness drug, because I immediately, it happens. But I only need so maybe I microdose. I've had the same tube for 100 years.
Have you ever taken cocculus?
Doesn't do it.
Tobacco, petroleum.
Oh my gosh. So one time, talking about, homeopaths traveling. So back in 2000, maybe 2001, a handful of my girlies, homeo girly friends, including Johanna Antar, our supervision coordinator, we all met in New York. I was living in Minnesota at the time, and I met them in New York, and we got on a plane to go study with Misha. And I had traveled ahead of time to meet them, so I was a flight ahead of them, and for whatever reason, I got really sick. Not throw up sick, but we were going around Gatwick Airport for I don't know how long, and the flight would go down and then up and then around, and would go down and up and around, and nothing got me out of it. Nothing. And I felt terrible. And I remember we got on this van, and we met up with some other folks who were coming. We all met at the airport, and this guy who was a pilot drove the van that we were all in, and it was hot. Oh, and it was May Day, and we went to Stonehenge, and and that was the trip where I had the Mists of Avalon with me. Anyway, and I was so hot, and I had my feet on top of these suitcases, and I was green, and I was literally bright green, and cocculus, tobacco, nothing.
You got a van full of homeopaths with great ideas.
Yeah, and then Misha gave me borax. And then Downward motion.
Downward motion.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't that interesting? That's a very liberal interpretation of downward motion.
And guess what? It worked.
Worked a treat.
But what I have done since then, because I am a car sickness girl from the get-go.
Oh.
I threw up on my grandmother's head from the back seat when I was like 7 or something.
Hang on, can you just say that again slower? Because you were laughing through it. You threw up on your grandmother's head, on
her head. I was in the back seat with my cousin Colleen, and Colleen's mom was driving, and my grandma Tessie was sitting in front of me, and I was like one of those, I'm going to be sick, and there it went.
That's Beeper de Horn?
No, that's not Beeper de Horn. That's my other grandmother. Right. But yeah, that was pretty bad. So,
wow.
So now I just, and it's funny because.
Oh, my God.
So, obviously you can take remedies prophylactically, sure. But I'll tell you what.
You got to be super clear about the symptoms you're going to experience. And that's the thing. That's why I say, what a silly question. And I don't mean it because I didn't mean it to be rude.
No.
But, when people said it to me last week, it wasn't about travelling. It was about something. And I went, just take the case. Wait for the symptoms to emerge.
Yeah.
And it's such a, look, it's such a legitimate response.
Do you know my worst motion sickness story? Now, I almost hate to talk about them, but the first time I ever went to a black tie event as an adult, I was like in my early 20s. It was my boss's wedding on a boat around New York. I got the best dress. I had a cute date, the whole bit. And we get on the boat, and we hadn't even left the harbor. Green. The minute we left, I had to lay upstairs. I missed the whole thing. I laid up on deck. They were giving me bitters and soda. And then the worst part was, we're going. They announced,
they loved it so much.
Yeah, it's so much time. Where everybody's having such a great time that we're going for another hour. I was like, no. But I find that my microdosing of Dramamine has been my savior.
Right. See, isn't that interesting? Yeah. So, good. So, a couple of examples of homeopaths not using homeopathic remedies in
it's weird, right?
Clinical. Well, it's not weird at all. It's just that we kind of know ourselves, I think. And obviously, you've got to have those remedies on you if you're going to be in that situation. And if you are flying, you don't want to have a massive 200 remedy kit. You need 12 remedies or 24 remedies max, right?
I have 30? More than that with us.
How many have you got?
I should have pulled them out ahead of time, but I have a little pouch with a bunch of remedies in it, and then I have that kit from Mike Dong.
You know what I've got?
Yeah, you have Bryonia and Aconite.
I've got Pulsatilla.
Oh, that's your trifecta.
And Oscillocosynum.
Do you?
Yep. And also Nux.
Uh-huh.
And
wait, so you packed your own remedy kit?
No, because I've got my but it's a different kind of first aid kit. I've got a pen. And it's in my toiletries. So I've got a pen.
We've been around the world together like 47 times. I had no idea that you carry all this stuff.
You should have a look at that.
I'm going to.
It's full of magic. No, but it's got my pen? Razor.
Uh-huh.
The pen.
Oh, like to get a splinter out or something?
Yeah, you need a pen.
Of course you do. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know you have one.
I've got it's gone blank. Echinacea, liquid echinacea, good quality. I find that's actually really saved me a few times when I've been doing big travel.
When I thought, of course, because every time you get sick or anyone around me gets sick, I think I have the symptoms, and so I made a concoction of echinacea and golden seal and water.
Oh my God!
But when it looks like wine. And I had it in a glass, and I'm working, and I'm sipping it, and it's disgusting, of course. And my client was like, "Wow!" I said, "Oh my God!"
You said, "Just having another second glass of Pinot Noir."
No, it was like looked like white wine.
Like white wine. No.
Anyway,
that's funny.
What else is in that kit?
So, but it's my homeopathy kit has about less than a third homeopathy in it.
Yeah.
Because it's got a couple of supplements, men's multi, and then it's got toothpaste, believe it or not. It's got the little folding kit, toothbrush thing, and then those remedies. And that, for me, that's, I've been caught short before, but,
That's why I have my kit. But I also always travel with bioplasma.
Brilliant. I find that packaging unhelpful.
You know what?
It's too big. For the kind of shape and size that I like to have all my
we could easily
toiletries
decant for you.
Yeah, right.
But you know what I used to travel with all the time and I forgot is activated charcoal was always.
You got me onto that. I left me cold. When do you use it?
If you eat something bad. Remember, I had it with us in China. But we needed a lot more. No,
Speaking of New Zealand,
we
were in Thailand and we were in China with Mike Dong. Hello, Mike. And
Mike Dong has Simillimum Pharmacy in Wellington.
Yeah. And, oh my God, that story. Can we tell that story?
He's a great travel companion. But here's homeopaths. Like not just 3 homeopaths.
3 homeopaths and one of them's a pharmacist.
And one of them is a pharmacist. And we have no remedies with us. And we're in China.
Oh, we got the shits real bad. Oh my God. kid.
I can't believe you actually just said that, but it's really true.
We had, because we're in this quite peculiar situation. Anyway, the long story short is that
We were teaching in China.
we were teaching at this conference with 800
people. It was a birth conference.
yeah.
It was all birth professionals. And
Ingrid got the beer. So she found, because there was no beer.
Irene.
And it was hot, so we need a beer.
So we were sitting out by this pool, and the five of us who were, I was going to say Westerners, but that's not technically true, but not the only non-Chinese folks. We all got together and we had this mini keg of beer, which was clearly expired or was bad or whatever.
Well, we didn't know that at the time.
No.
But when we did know about it was when four of us...
We went out to the Sun and Moon Pagoda Festival.
And immediately just started to, get that feeling. Uh-oh.
Well,
hello.
We were really lucky, though, because the three of us didn't get on the boat, and the people who got on the boat almost died.
They did. Oh, my God. But anyway...
no remedies.
There's something else about traveling in when you need a Starbucks. We saw that sign. We ran for it.
We ran. Well, we didn't run. We went from bench to bench, sitting down. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe we're telling this story. If only, this is one that should be on video because it should be acted out. It was really something. But here's the thing. With travel, now of course there are the unexpected delights of international travel, but you can't always just be schlepping around a bunch of remedies either.
No. And look, that's where, for me, just riffing on that, that's where, your understanding of remedy reaction and understanding what happens when you give the second best or the third best or the fourth best remedy. Yeah. You can actually get there. You don't get there in a straight line and super quick, but actually you can get by. Yeah. And I think, just the, what is it? Can I say it? The obsession with taking a pill for something.
I think we're terrible homeopaths that we don't really take a lot of remedies.
I don't think we're terrible homeopaths. I actually think that we wait for the symptom picture to be clear and then we act. And if it's not clear, don't go there. Because you have no capacity to manage that drug reaction, remedy reaction.
So here's a question. No, I totally agree with you. But so when I was teaching in London and my friends and colleagues, they were all into the jet lag combo. And that's arnica, cocculus, and something else. Gelsemium, I think.
It's got gelsemium in it, it's got arnica in it.
And cocculus. Right?
It's got cocculus in it, and it's got a really strange one that I think it might have... I was going to say gelsemium or ignatia. I think it's got ignatia in it.
Really?
It's a New Zealand combo.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a New Zealand product. They've been making it here and flogging it around the world in airports for decades and decades. Now, there's a clinical trial that supports its use. Yeah. Yeah, I did some research. Can I tell you about it? Yeah. So what they did, whoever this company representative was, approached the New Zealand ski team and said, when are you travelling next? And they went, we're going to Austria for a bit of skiing. And so they did a double-blind trial whereby the New Zealand ski team got on the plane and no one knew who had taken the no jet lag. And then they got off at the other end and went skiing, recovering and skiing. And by a few markers, it's not the world's best piece of research. Right, but basically, there was, when it was unblinded, there's a decent statistical result favouring the product itself. That's so interesting. Then they did it with a bunch of Air New Zealand flight crew. Really? Yeah, there you go.
That is so interesting. Well, my theory is also that sometimes, I think preparation really helps, but it's also the airlines. So when we're talking about our trip to China, we were so jet lagged.
Actually, that was... You mean coming back?
Well, no, going.
So yeah, that was very strange, actually. Yeah, you're right.
We didn't sleep for a day, and nothing helped. I had one time, I remember years ago, coming back on a red-eye from California, and getting home, like it wasn't like come home in the morning. It was one of those flights you get in at like 4 in the morning or something, and trying to sleep. And it was one of those arnica moments of the bed's too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just flopping around like a carp. And then I took a dose of arnica and it was, snoring.
That's the reason that remedy is in the travel combos.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the bed is too hard.
And it works. It's amazing.
Right.
But I think sometimes some of the airplanes don't circulate the air as well.
Well, yeah, well.
Right. And don't sort of take care, like the amenities aren't quite there.
Can I tell you a shocker?
Yeah.
I can tell you exactly where the air is worst. It's right at the back in the centre. And I did a flight once. I was teaching in Galway, and I had to go home. And I was getting on a flight to go home. Got to the airport. Thought I was a bit peckish, so I had a sandwich. And then I flew to Dublin, little flight, boop, and then Dublin, London, and mid-air from Dublin to London, I started to get the shits. And then I got a connecting flight from London to Dubai, and then Dubai, Sydney. And I spent that 36 hours basically they looked after me. I was really sick. That's straight up food poisoning.
Wow.
And no remedies, and just all you can do is muscle on through it. That happened
to you another time.
It happened to me one of the first times I got upgraded. I spent.
I remember.
I was Emirates business.
You were leaving. It was Thanksgiving, after a Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh, there was another time. Yeah. And
I don't like talking about this now. It feels like.
Well, no. It's interesting. But I think it gives us actually some street cred. Because we've flown, a lot of miles. Oh, my gosh. But I think the one thing I would say, and we won't bore you with stories about throwing up on airplanes and stuff, but although I was on a flight when someone died.
Well, enough.
Do you want to know about it?
No.
Okay, so we'll move on. But most people actually don't fly for work or, they fly. Yeah. People fly. But most of their travel, most of their interaction with travel and life and health is with kids and doing the shopping or going to work.
There was a kid on the plane. I felt so bad for this family. We flew direct from JFK to Auckland yesterday. So it was a 18-hour flight, something like that. Flight, yeah. And this poor kid just screamed almost the entire way. And
you could see that he had an ear problem.
I could see it. They were walking by. They were taking turns walking him around our section. And he was doing that thing, opening his mouth as just to equalize. Trying to equalize. And I remember Eric Summerman, one of my teachers and then colleagues in Minnesota, the amazing and late Eric Summerman, said the trick is you put a warm washcloth over the ear and then a glass on it and it equalizes the pressure. And I did that once for Ben and it was amazing. He was about 2 years old and really struggling.
Amazing. But when it comes to car transport or train transport, commuter transport, there's there's just a heap of other challenges, aren't there?
There really are. But
what about the bladder? Holding on to that. Can we talk about holding on to bladders?
If we must.
Yeah, we'll get a laugh.
This is now a comedy podcast about bodily functions.
My God.
But you know what? I just want to loop back around because it's almost time for dinner here.
It's getting on for dinner.
It is getting on for dinner. But so where we started, which is about the ways in which travel brings us to our edges and asks us to be present in different ways and asks us to be more, what's the word? More flexible. You can't always control your environment in the ways that you can do at home. But for good travel, being prepared is really helpful.
Yeah.
And, people always ask, what remedy do you take before you fly, as we were saying, but it's how much water do you drink? Yep. And putting, we've got all these, depending on the length of the flight, the different things that we do. Sometimes they don't work, like having a big, heavy meal before getting on a flight to Europe is great because you fall asleep right on the plane, except if that flight is on the now defunct WOW airline, which is delayed because of a big storm and you have to sleep on the floor of JFK. But
Can I just recommend that a bottle of wine and mac and cheese is not a great combination if your flight is delayed.
But
You
being
heard it here
prepared,
first, folks.
water, hydrating.
Yeah.
Bioplasma, I think, is just, it's such a, man, so good. And then when we get off the plane, I like a hippie day,
Yeah.
green juice, when we go around the world, if it's possible, getting a massage.
And get your pineal gland out in the sun.
Get out in the sun, do a long walk, get a lot of air. That really helps a lot. And eating lots of green, like eating good food.
I think getting back into the rhythm of the time that you've just landed in is somehow the key. It's not always simple. Like we've had a big nap, haven't we?
Yeah, that was pretty amazing today.
A deep one, yeah.
But not yesterday. That's for sure. Today we did a hike that was almost 4 hours. About three.
Yeah, it
three
was
and
about
change.
2.5 hours too long. I was fueled up, nice and ready to go, and then I ran out of steam.
So manage the blood sugar is another thing with travel.
Always have a snack.
All right. Thanks for traveling with us.
That's no problem. I want to say something though, because we're in New Zealand, and New Zealand has a long and noble history of homeopathy. It goes back to 1849, when Purdy, a Scottish.
P-U-R-D-Y?
P-U-R-D-I-E.
I-E.
He was the first, and with another person, I think landed in Dunedin, and then ended up in Auckland and set up the New Zealand Homeopathic Society, or started the first journal, I can't remember.
Wow.
So fairly early days
for
homeopathy, and just a shout out to the folks that keep it alive here. It's a really it's a dogged community. It's a lively community, but it's also, it's been tough times here for a while, and you know who you are if you're listening.
We got to speak at the conference. What year was that? 2017?
17, yeah.
And it was it 17 or 18?
No, I reckon 17.
17? What an amazing group of people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Really.
No, just, you know how you talk about Minnesota women, the Minnesota women that kept homeopathy alive?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was really the sort of Midwestern women.
Yeah, Midwestern
Not
women.
really. That's kind of a different story. That's the profession. That's the...
Yeah, but what I was going to say is that homeopathy is, dominated by very strong women here.
Yeah.
And, it's just all of the work. It's really impressive. So, yeah.
Such a beautiful place, too.
Hope you hear the birds in the background.
Yeah.
Chirping away. All right, it is time for some nutrition for you and I.
Let's do it.
And we'll see you soon. Take it easy.
Bye.